Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 23rd, and right now I'm doing the second video, evening edition here, taking a look to see if there's any changes, look at a few new things here, starting with the visible satellite imagery. You can see the sun setting across North America out over the Pacific Ocean. You can see the colder air just now starting to spill off of North America, southeast Alaska, and you can see this cloud formation here. That's the very cold air moving over the relatively warmer water. There is some low-level instability, and this will continue to propagate down the coastline here. As we go through tomorrow, you'll see these streamers coming off of British Columbia here and wrapping back around into Washington and Oregon. This cold air moves over that relatively warm water here. You get that instability, you get some cyclonic rotation here and streaming some heavy precipitation amounts back into the mountains. So some nice snowfall incoming here, you guys. And so we got some thunderstorm potential with this as well. We'll also take a look at the winds. We can have some nice Arctic outflow winds here across some of the region as well. And we're going to cool down quite a bit here as we go towards the end of the week. Looking at the infrared, you can actually see it here as well. You can see these streamers coming off of southeast Alaska. That's that colder air moving over the relatively warmer water. And again, you're going to see that propagate down the coastline here tomorrow and continuing to feed the Pacific Northwest here with some moisture and some upper elevation snowfall. So checking out the channel, we've been doing pretty good here. We've been picking up quite a few subscribers here in the last few days. So this Arctic air mass bearing down on the area. We're almost to 50,000. So if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do so. But this is all you guys. Great job. You guys are making this channel grow. You're making this all worth its while. Got some very intelligent people on here, always positive comments. So again, good job, you guys. We are almost to 50,000. Let's see if we can get there tonight. Now, taking a look here, you can see that we have the first fall mountain pass snowfall coming in here. Look at Stevens Pass. National Weather Service Seattle calling between 28 and 16 inches there, right around 2 feet. Mount Baker, somewhere around 9 inches. Snoqualmie Pass, Stampede Pass getting a nice early season snowfall. Hurricane Ridge, a few inches as well. We're not expecting snow down to sea level right now, but you could get some ice pouch or some small hail with some of this thunderstorm activity. We do have that potential here over the next couple of days. We'll take a look at that also coming up here in a bit. And cold morning temperatures Thursday into the weekend here. Check it out. Teens and 20s. This is eastern Washington, Spokane, down into Oregon as well. Idaho, British Columbia. There's some places going to see some single digits off through Montana and British Columbia, Alberta. Yeah, so it's going to be a widespread hard freeze down there. Protect livestock and pets. Dress warmly if you're outside. You guys know the deal here. And yeah, an early season winterization is required here for some of the faucets and irrigation as well. These are the current hazards. Check it out. We've upgraded to winter storm warnings across the Cascades of Washington. We got winter weather advisories out there for the South Washington Cascades as well and the Oregon Cascades right now. And we'll see if we upgrade this to a winter storm warning at some point, because places like Mount Rainier and some areas of South Cascades may still get some nice heavy snowfall with this event. You can see winter storm watches still across western Montana, a lot of winter storm warnings. Also, virtually the entire state under some kind of winter storm warning, winter weather advisory, or winter storm watch at this point. Still have some wind advisories out there as well. We've got some gusty westerly winds coming through the gaps of the mountains here for the east slopes of eastern Washington and eastern Oregon. Now, taking a look at Oregon, you can see some of the higher terrain. I put this, the European, the 18Z, all the way up to 90 hours here, and you can see the higher terrain getting them some nice amounts. Some places could get locally up over a foot of snowfall with this as well. But again, mainly the higher terrain here, and some of the coastal range might even get a little bit of snowfall also there. So yeah, nice early season snowfall rolling in. Checking out Washington, you can kind of see where Stevens Pass is kind of bullseye here, you know, up over 16 inches, not out of the question. Snoqualmie Pass, again, what, 9-10 inches possible there also. You can see a little bit of snowfall maybe for Tiger Mountain here, maybe the southwest Washington, higher terrain also, Capitol Forest out there, and maybe even the highest peaks there, Mount Constitution across some of the San Juans there with some of this Fraser River outflow. Interesting convergence zones could be forming out here. That's when you get the winds kind of moving off the continent here, meeting up with some of the southerlies will be moving across the Puget Sound. Where those winds meet, you can't go down, so it goes up. And when you lift that air, you get some nice convection there, and you can really cool down the atmosphere and bring that snow level down a little bit lower there. But you can see Vancouver Island also getting a nice round of snowfall with this also. The European been backing off a little bit of the snowfall here for some of Spokane, but I'll show you the high resolution models here in a moment. And of course, if you want a nice affordable home weather station, click on that link down below. To save 10% off. This thing even has a lightning detection system with it as well. Ultrasonic anemometer. Highly recommend that station. Now, I talked about this morning here too, and I wanted to just bring this up again. We got the lake effect snow when cold air moves over warm water. We have a similar thing that happens here in the Pacific Northwest. When you bring the cold air off the continent, like I showed at the beginning of the video here, it brings it over the warmer, relatively warmer ocean water here. Then you deposit snow, and this turns back into Washington, sometimes British Columbia and Oregon, especially when you move this up the terrain terrain, you orographically lift it, and you cool it even further, and you can get some really heavy snowfall bands up into the Cascades. And here's a diagram of that, and that's starting already over southeast Alaska, this colder air moving off, and eventually this will continue down the coastline there and flow out over the relatively warm Pacific Ocean here. And it's still 55 degrees, even warmer than that a little bit off the coastline here as well, up towards 60 degrees Fahrenheit. That fairly warm water out there, and that will bring some pretty powerful low-level lapse rates. It means the low-level instability would be fairly strong, and you could kick off some thunderstorms here, which could bring some ice pellets and some small hail as well, thunderstorm activity, and again, heavy mountain snows incoming. Now, this is looking at 925 millibars on this afternoon's European model, and you can see the winds coming here off of southeast Alaska. That's what we saw in the infrared satellite imagery. Now, if we put this into motion, you'll see this wind kind of continue to wrap back around here, and you can see it coming off of the coastline of British Columbia here as we go on in through tomorrow morning, and that's quickly wrapping back around. So you can see very cold air, picks up some moisture, some instability, and brings it right back into western Washington and western Oregon as we go on in through Wednesday morning. You can see where that low pressure is progged to be right over Astoria or southwest Washington into Wednesday morning here. And then you can kind of see it slowly sagging south, and you can still see some cold continental air moving off of British Columbia here, and another little wave wants to take a swing at us here towards the end of the week. Not much confidence in that just yet because the trajectory doesn't bring it out over the water too much, but you can kind of see another little surface low with that. But more on that here over the next few days. Let's worry about the first things first. Lightning flash density potential coming up on the HER 3KM. Put it into motion. And as we go through tomorrow, you can see some of this instability moving over the Pacific Northwest. We do have some lightning potential here as we go through Tuesday afternoon. In fact, let me update that. I believe the HER is running as I speak, and we should have a little more data here. So we got out to Tuesday morning here, and we do. Now we're into Tuesday evening, and you can see that. You've got this very cold air aloft and this unstable atmosphere, and these nice showers rolling on the coastline here could create some small hail, some snow pellets, some ice pellets, and again, pretty heavy mountain snowfall. So yeah, we're dealing with some convectively enhanced snowfall here as we go through the next couple of days. Looking at the NAM 3KM, this kind of shows that cold air moving over the warmer water, and it gives some of that cape there. And you can see mostly concentrated right off the coastline, but you can see it get into the interior areas a bit here as well. And then again, kind of on Wednesday afternoon as that low pressure system and the Arctic front sags south across the area. Now, taking a look at the day one thunderstorm outlook here, kind of just a sliver into northern Washington, Idaho, and Montana here, but they must have heard me talking about it this morning because they have introduced this 2-day outlook here for the coastal areas for a thunderstorm threat. Kind of unusual for them to pick up on that. Sometimes we get ignored here in the Pacific Northwest. Looking at composite reflectivity and precipitation type on the NAM 3KM18Z, this is going on in through tonight, and you can see some showers starting tomorrow morning. Some snow starts flying across the Olympics, Vancouver Island, North Cascades, and you can see the frontal system swing through during the day tomorrow. A lot of mountain snow incoming here, and then we get the cool showery weather behind that for continued snowfall here all the way in through Wednesday morning. Even some wraparound moisture occurring here across maybe Chelan, North Cascades, Northeast Washington, and you can see the shower activity continuing on in through Wednesday afternoon for some of the Cascades of Oregon before that precipitation finally slides off to the south and east. Now, looking at the NAM 3KM, this is 24-hour running total here for Kuchera ratio. Kind of takes the lower atmosphere temperature into account when it calculates these snow ratios. But you can see some of these higher amounts across North Cascades. Look at that's Mount Rainier right there, maybe up 2 feet here. Stevens Pass getting pretty good amounts also here, and some big amounts for the Oregon Cascades as well. So yeah, interesting stuff. You can actually see it does show that little bit of snowfall there for Mount Constitution, Southwest Washington, and some of the coastal range of Oregon as well. And it kind of just misses. Ritzville is here and Moses Lake is there, so maybe just on the north side of it. But the NAM, as you can see, shows a couple inches for Spokane here, and this would be falling as you go on in through Tuesday night into early Wednesday morning. Now, taking a look at 80-meter wind speeds here, I want to show you some cool terrain features here for the Pacific Northwest. So if we put this into motion, this is this afternoon tonight, getting a pretty good westerly surge down the Strait of Georgia here and through the Strait of Juan de Fuca, and you can see the big winds here across the eastern portions of the Cascades of Washington and Oregon. That's why those wind advisories are out there. So as we continue on into tonight and tomorrow morning, relax a little bit, and then comes the system. It starts this cyclogenesis off the coastline here, and you notice the winds start to flow off the continent here in British Columbia as well. And here's that Fraser River outflow there, kind of a cold air conduit all the way into the interior BC here. and you can see it start to flow out over the San Juan Islands there. And if you look out here, there's another cold air conduit, the Okanagan River Valley there. There's also the Purcell Trench that comes out of the northeast here into eastern Washington and Idaho Panhandle as well. So we've got a lot of interesting terrain features here. When we get these Arctic outbreaks, you can really see it come through in the wind. And then you can kind of see that little surface low here, kind of a reflection of it anyway, across some of eastern Washington as the Arctic front moves across the region. And you can see these northerlies eventually come all the way down the Puget Sound here. So yeah, interesting stuff when we get this Arctic air into the area. And this is Orcas Island. So these would be those outflow winds. And look at some of these gusts up into the mid and upper 40s here. One of them shows 53 miles per hour. The control had it about 35 miles per hour. I believe that's what it says. But a lot of these are around 40, lower 40s here. And that can cause some damage this time of year here coming up. So watch out for these northeast winds across the San Juans, up towards Bellingham. You guys know the drill. The Fraser River winds will be roaring. And this is looking at Orcas Island. You can see some of these gusts in the upper 40s here also. Now, looking at the European, this is the 18Z, hot off the presses, 500 millibars, 18,000 feet. You can see the northwest and westerly winds, and check out the trough just carving out quite nicely here across western Washington. That's allowing that cold continental air to get out over the water here, and cyclogenesis and snowfall and mountain snow and everything I just explained, thunderstorm potential. And then this next little arm here, we get another little shot of Arctic air, but you can see it's not much of a trajectory over water here, but it might bring some light precipitation with it. Another chilly upper level low would be associated. Now, Snoqualmie Pass, you can see virtually all the ensembles are in agreement here for some nice snowfall incoming here. And again, it's going to be a little bit warm here, and the surfaces are still a bit warm, but right outside of Snoqualmie Pass, you're probably going to be looking at like 1.5 feet for some areas. Like I said before, the Pacific Coast Trail, if you are out and about on that, or you know anybody who is, watch out, because this is a significant snowfall, and this is going to be hard to march around in 1.5 feet out there if you are not prepared for it. A lot of times in late October, we're not getting these kind of snowfalls. So check that out. Look at these snowfalls incoming here. So if you know anybody up there in the backcountry, let them know. This is a Mount Baker ski area. Not as much, but 6 inches, still quite a big deal here in late October. And you can see Whistler here as well, kind of downtrending on the amounts, just not a lot of moisture to work with up there, but it might be some nice fluffy snow. But you missed out on this round, but never fear, because you can see what's coming potentially as we go through the early portion of November here for the interior of British Columbia and some of the higher terrain. This is Seattle to Tacoma. I've been showing this. This is the cross section here. Let me update that and see if it's been updated. It has, actually, the 18Z. And you can clearly see we are now dealing with some very chilly air here aloft. It actually gets colder as we go on in through the end of the week here. And you can kind of see the diurnal cycle, the warm up during the afternoons here, and the nocturnal cool downs. And you could get some outlying areas in the Puget Sound metro that are going to drop below freezing as we go towards the end of the week. We'll look at those details as well. This is Spokane, the 12Z run. Check it out. You can see very cold air all the way down to the surface, and a little bit of warming during the afternoons here, but you might stay in the 30s there for a few days for a lot of eastern Washington. Now, looking at the timing of this, actually, let's update that, because we got an 18Z run to look at now. Brand new information. So here we go. Looks like the bulk of the precip arrives later in the morning tomorrow, and you can see that frontal system and the low pressure right off the coastline of Washington. It's going to make a cool satellite imagery here with the moisture streaming across the Pacific Ocean and back into the Pacific Northwest. And low pressure is going to wrap some moisture back around with it as well. Unstable air cuts off, and you can kind of see that secondary little pulse of Arctic air get us here, and it does continue some precipitation, so that would add a few more inches to some of the mountain areas especially, and then that finally cuts off as we go through the weekend here, and that system moves off to the south and east, and then on in through the early portion of November. It looks like the westerlies may return to the Pacific Northwest. More on that here in the next few days, one thing at a time. This is total precipitation in inches, the European, and actually, yeah, we're figuring this out here real time. 18Z. Let's go ahead and look at the 18Z, because we got new information. But yeah, you can see some pretty good rainfall occurring as well. And some of these are going to be occurring in some heavier showers at times. Also some thunderstorm potential, like I've been mentioning here. But you can see a lot of this across the higher terrain is going to be falling as snow. So big snowfall potentially incoming with this. And then we're going to cut that precip off at least for a few days here as we go through the weekend. Daily 2-meter min temperature here. So this is the national blend of models. And let me show you guys. Look at some of this cold air across BC. You're seeing in single digits and teens. This area here, that is below 0 Fahrenheit, you guys, across some of Alberta and the Rocky Mountains out there. So yeah, backcountry people, heads up here, my people across the Pacific Northwest. You guys know what's coming. I mean, look at some of this across Idaho and Montana, British Columbia. You got a lot of single digits out here. And look at some of the Cascades of Washington, Oregon, Eastern Oregon. You're getting way down in towards the mid-teens. Look at this, North Washington Cascades, 10 degrees Fahrenheit. And as we go on in through the later portion of the week, you can see the Puget Sound and Western Oregon cooling down quite a bit there as well. Some 20s showing up for the Willamette Valley and some of Western Washington getting down into the upper 20s also. So yeah, very cold air mass. You can see the stretch all the way down into California here. This would be Sunday, October 29th. Now, looking at the 1.3 kilometer here, the UW model here, actually a product of the GFS. But you can see the intricate terrain details this model picks out. It's why it's such an effective model. You can see Tiger Mountain there, and you can see the Cascade foothills. You can see where North Bend is. You can see Arlington. You can see the Mount Constitution there for the San Juan Islands. There's Vancouver Island. There's the Southwest Washington higher elevation there also. So you can kind of see how this is definitely a higher elevation snowfall event here. But yeah, a very useful tool here. And this is looking at the entire state of Washington. Let's run this through here really quick. And you can kind of see maybe an inch or two for Spokane there. Wenatchee could get a couple inches. And right outside, like Leavenworth and Wenatchee, just on the higher hills, any elevation you get outside of there, you're really going to start to pick up some impressive snowfall amounts. So heads up for that, including Lake Chelan, like on the higher hills around it as well. Some pretty big snow incoming here. So yeah, kind of a cool look at things there. Again, with the 1.33 kilometer 6 to 10 day temperature outlook. This was updated today. Now they've included the entire West all the way down through California here, and really high confidence and below average temperatures during this time frame all the way out through Montana here, includes the Pacific Northwest. And 8 to 14 day temperature start to bounce back here again as we start to bring some westerlies in here. But again, one thing at a time. We'll check out these systems here in a couple days and break that down in a little more detail. This is 6 to 10 day precipitation. As we move that system down, we're going to dry out for a few days. So it just kind of includes that time frame there. 8 to 14 day. If those westerlies do return, we would be in the above normal precipitation pocket also. So anyway, yeah, if you're traveling across the passes, Tuesday through Wednesday, difficult travel conditions at time, heaviest snow expected Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. Have a plan, keep some stuff in your car, warm blankets, water, food. You guys know the drill. Yeah, and you might even need to chain up across some of the higher passes out there as well. So heads up for that. But anyway, yeah, again, click like and subscribe there. You guys make this channel possible, almost to 50,000. If we get another 50,000 at some point someday, I'll get an actual plaque from YouTube, I guess. My daughter was telling me about that. So pretty cool stuff. So anyway, I'll do my normal briefing again tomorrow. Hope you guys are prepared for the nice cool down here, and I will talk to you guys then.